impact on constitutional law in America as he served on the bench 34 years and helped write over 1,000 decisions. He fought in the Revolution under Washington and during the winter at Valley Forge. The nation felt a profound loss at his death. The Liberty Bell cracked while tolling at his funeral. Chief Justice John Marshall wrote, "It would be strange indeed if with such a people, our institutions did not presuppose Christianity and did not often refer to it."
This has been an American Minute with Bill Federer. For a free transcript, call American Minute at 1-888-USA-WORD.
VCY America presents Crosstalk, a nationwide call-in program discussing issues that have an effect on our families, our communities, our churches, our nation, and our world. Crosstalk, an opportunity for you to voice your concerns for biblical principles. And now live by satellite and around the world on the internet at vcyamerica.org. Here is today's Crosstalk.
And we do thank you for joining us on Crosstalk on the VCY American Network. And friends, we're going to focus in on President Trump speaking rather bluntly yesterday before the United Nations, and we'll get to some of those excerpts here in just a little while. I would like to make mention, though, tragedy struck again, this time in Dallas, Texas. FoxNews.com reporting at least 3 people shot, 2 of them killed. A shooting at an ICE facility in Dallas. That's Immigration Customs Enforcement Facility. The shooting reportedly occurred as the officers were transferring detainees into the facility. The shooter died due to self-inflicted wounds, the authorities said. 3 individuals who were shot were all detainees. 2 of them have died. The 3 detainees were shot while inside a law enforcement van, the ICE sources said. The FBI says it's investigating the incident as a targeted attack against ICE. Representatives for the FBI at a Wednesday morning press conference in Dallas said the preliminary investigations uncovered anti-ICE messaging on bullet rounds found near the shooter. Dallas Police Department sources told Fox News the shooting occurred at roughly 6:30 a.m. local time. They say no law enforcement officials were injured, but the 3 detainees shot, 2 were killed. Homeland Security Secretary Christine Noem said, while we don't know motive yet, we know that our ICE law enforcement is facing unprecedented violence against them. It must stop. Please pray for the victims and their families, she added. Authorities say the shooter opened fire when the sally port to the facility was open during the transfer of detainees, attempting to force his way in. The obsessive attack on law enforcement, particularly ICE, must stop, said Vice President J.D. Vance, or he said that on X. I'm praying for everyone hurt in the attack and for their families. DHS spokeswoman Tricia McLaughlin calls for critics of ICE to tone down their rhetoric after the attack. And Senator Ted Cruz also appeared at a press conference this morning and condemned the attack, saying violence has no place. It is wrong. If we want to have a debate about immigration, we can do that in the halls of Congress. And friends, indeed, we do need to tone this rhetoric down, the violence. You don't solve things by shooting. Daily Caller says the deceased shooter who killed at least 2 people has reportedly been identified as a 29-year-old Joshua Yan. He left anti-ICE written on a bullet casing. 2 victims wounded, as we mentioned, had died. Same Dallas facility was targeted with a bomb threat in August. Department of Homeland Security noted in a Wednesday statement other shootings occurred in Texas at an ICE detention center in Alvarado on July 4th and at a Border Patrol facility in McAllen just 3 days later. A statement that came from Kristi Noem said this vile attack was motivated by hatred for ICE. For months, we've been warning politicians and the media to tone down their rhetoric about ICE law enforcement before someone was killed. The shooting must serve as a wake-up call to the far left that the rhetoric about ICE has consequences, said Noem. Also, we have from NewsNationNow.com, FBI Director Kash Patel included a photo of these bullet casings found at the scene, one of which had the word anti-ICE written on it. He said on X, posted that these despicable, politically motivated attacks against law enforcement are not a one-off. We are only miles from Prairieland, Texas, where just 2 months ago, an individual ambushed a separate ICE facility targeting their officers. It has to end, and the FBI and our partners will lead the investigative efforts to see to it that those who target our law enforcement are pursued and brought to the fullest extent of justice. Tragedy in Dallas, Texas here today, and friends, indeed, be praying. Be praying. Those who were killed, they have families, they have loved ones, and are grieving, and be praying for them. Also be praying for the protection on those who are here to protect the peoples and protect this nation as well, those involved in law enforcement. Yesterday, President Donald Trump was to speak in New York, and he did. And shortly before this happened, the word came out about the Secret Service dismantling an imminent threat to telecommunications targeting top U.S. officials. WND.com has a story where the Secret Service says the devices were concentrated not far from where all this was unfolding. As President Trump was preparing to address the UN General Assembly in New York, the U.S. Secret Service announced it dismantled a network of electronic devices located throughout the New York tri-state area that were used to conduct multiple telecommunications-related threats directed toward senior U.S. government officials, which represented an imminent threat to the agency's protective operations. The agency says this protective intelligence investigation led to the discovery of more than 300 co-located SIM servers and 100,000 SIM cards across multiple sites. According to the news release, in addition to carrying out anonymous telephonic threats, these devices could be used to conduct a wide range of telecommunications attacks. This includes disabling cell phone towers, enabling denial of services attacks, and facilitating anonymous encrypted communications between potential threat actors and criminal enterprises. Was something planned to take place yesterday? While forensic examination of these devices is ongoing, early analysis indicates cellular communications between nation-state threat actors and individuals that are known to federal law enforcement. Secret Service Director Sean Curran indicated, quote, the potential for disruption to our country's telecommunications posed by this network of devices cannot be overstated. The U.S. Secret Service's protective mission is all about prevention, and this investigation means it's clear to potential bad actors that imminent threats to our protectees will be immediately investigated, tracked down, and dismantled. Secret Service says the devices were concentrated within 35 miles of the global meeting of the United Nations General Assembly that's now underway in New York City. The agency said, given the timing, location, and potential for significant disruption to New York telecommunications posed by these devices, the agency moved quickly to disrupt this network. Friends, there is so much that is going on. We need to continue to be in prayer for our nation, our nation's leaders. There are those who want to undermine the safety and well-being of our nation, those who want to disrupt our form of government, those who want to destroy us as a nation. This, another attempt, perhaps stopped by the Secret Service yesterday, shortly before President Trump spoke at the United Nations, just hours before. And I found it also very interesting that, as the Gateway Pundit puts it, the White House Tuesday afternoon has demanded an investigation now amid reports that UN staffers, there's reports that UN staffers intentionally stopped the escalator as President Trump and First Lady Melania were stepping on it in a major security breach. It's amazing, friends, when you watch what took place yesterday. Just as the First Lady stepped on that, all of a sudden, an abrupt stop. A quote here from the White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt said if someone at the UN intentionally stopped the escalator as the President and First Lady were stepping on, they need to be fired and investigated immediately. She said that along with the report that UN staffers may turn off the escalators to make Trump walk up the stairs. President Trump returned to the United Nations General Assembly stage in New York City for this major address yesterday. The President and First Lady arrived approximately 8:50 in the morning. First Lady Melania and President Trump walked through the building, stepped on an escalator that was surrounded by people. There were 2 escalators going up to the next floor. Melania Trump stepped on the escalator on the left, followed by President Trump. And as soon as President Trump stepped on the escalator, it came to a halt. However, the escalator on the right continued to operate. Melania reacted quickly, started walking up the escalator stairs, followed by her husband, President Trump, and his entourage. And as he arrived to the UN, the escalator stopped working the moment he stepped on it. And then later, as he steps up to the podium to speak, guess what? The teleprompter stopped working the very moment that he got up to the podium to speak. Secret Service sources told Real Clear Politics reporter Susan Crabtree that it's all very concerning that President Trump was stalled and he was also vulnerable. Carolyn Levitt said the Secret Service is investigating the escalator situation. Coincidental? We'll let you be the judge of that. But friends, it is item after item that is compounding here. We see the planned interruption for telecommunications, 100,000 SIM cards, all of these ready to go out and make these massive calls, and government officials being targeted with all of this. That all transpiring just hours before the president was to speak. He gets to the United Nations building just as he's stepping on the escalator, coming to an abrupt stop. I mean, sometimes people lunge forward, they trip. Wouldn't that have made a moment that would have captured legacy media's cameras all throughout the night? And the talk show host would want to mock a president. Oh, he can't walk. Look at this. And then to walk up to the podium, he is introduced. There's been other speakers at the United Nations. And as President Trump goes up to speak, just like that, the teleprompter does not work. Well, he had his written speech, and he started with the written speech that he had before him as well, and went to deliver that. It looks like the teleprompter began working at some point during his address. And then even before leading up to this, and we'll get to some excerpts in the following segment, but the Washington Stand is reporting, leading up to this event at the United Nations, 8 Western nations formally recognized a state of Palestine on Sunday and Monday as the UN General Assembly convened in New York. Marco Rubio said Tuesday the whole thing is irrelevant and it's almost a vanity project for a couple of these world leaders who want to be relevant, but it really makes no difference. On Sunday, the UK, Canada, Australia, and Portugal followed through on their commitments from earlier this year to recognize Palestinian statehood before the UN Convention. On Monday, France, Belgium, Monaco, and Luxembourg did the same. Dr. Jonathan Schanzer, executive director of the Foundation for Defense of Democracy, said on Washington Watch, this is not a new initiative. This is something that has actually been pursued by the Palestinian Authority since 2005. There was actually a vote in 2012 when the UN saw 138 countries come on and recognize the state of Palestine, or what they called the state of Palestine. In a UN General Assembly vote earlier this month, some 142 countries voted to implement a two-state solution, while only 10 nations, including the U.S. and Israel, voted against. Yet even the overwhelming show of global support didn't do anything to further the cause, he pointed out. The reason why is that this will only be a matter if voted upon and accepted at the UN Security Council, so a General Assembly vote where 193 countries could all vote in favor wouldn't matter, not even a bit. It has to be at the Security Council, and that's where the United States has a veto. Friends, we're going to take a quick break here on Crosstalk. We'll come back. You're going to hear multiple excerpts coming from yesterday's UN address by President Donald Trump. And, friends, he was rather blunt, as he normally is. We'll be back in 1 minute here on Crosstalk.
Back to Genesis with Dr. John Morris, author and seminar speaker with the Institute for Creation Research. Dr. Morris, where did the idea come from that there were little green men who lived on Mars?
Chris, the idea that there was intelligent life on Mars was given a big boost in the late 19th century when the American astronomer Percival Lowell claimed that he saw linear features on Mars, which he claimed were canals. Later, it became obvious that the Martian atmosphere could not support advanced forms of life, so they've given up the idea. What they haven't given up is the idea that there might be microbes on Mars, single-cell life. This idea is fueling the modern expeditions to Mars to find water. The idea is if they can find water, then maybe there's life. But while water is a necessary condition for life, it's not sufficient. Life is much too complex to have formed haphazardly. It needs a lot more than water. NASA could save a lot of money by going back to Genesis for their starting point.
Thank you, Dr. John. This is Chris O'Brien. Thanks for tuning in.
This is Crosstalk on VCY America, and today our focus on President Trump speaking bluntly before the United Nations. Let me just give a heads up on tomorrow's program. And we've had some calls on the matter of forgiveness. Do we forgive somebody who's not forgiven us? We hear from Erica Kirk and her forgiveness of the one who shot her husband, Charlie. And we are going to be dealing with this topic of forgiveness on tomorrow's program. And I encourage you to be listening. And we're going to be hearing from a pastor on this topic tomorrow and really get down to this matter of forgiveness. And he'll have some very important things to share with us on tomorrow's broadcast. Yesterday, President Trump spoke before the United Nations, and he first made comments about the teleprompter not working. I wish I could hear much of his address, but he spoke close to an hour, and we'll not have time for that. We've just got multiple excerpts, and Lord willing, we'll have opportunity for you to also call in later on the program today. But several things that he had to share yesterday, and certainly, and again, these are just brief excerpts, but he certainly did have a message to give out. And what's interesting, too, in his address, he even talked about the fact that he had offered to build the very building that they were standing in. Listen to his account of this.
Known as Donald J. Trump, I bid on the renovation and rebuilding of this very United Nations complex. I remember it so well. I said at the time that I would do it for $500 million, rebuilding everything. It would be beautiful. I used to talk about, I'm going to give you marble floors. They're going to give you terrazzo. I'm going to give you the best of everything. You're going to have mahogany walls. They're going to give you plastic. But they decided to go in another direction, which was much more expensive at the time, and which actually produced a far inferior product. And I realized that they did not know what they were doing when it came to construction, and that their building concepts were so wrong, and the product that they were proposing to build was so bad and so costly. It was going to cost them a fortune. And I said, and wait till you see the overruns. Well, I turned out to be right. They had massive cost overruns and spent between $2 and $4 billion on the building and did not even get the marble floors that I promised them. You walk on terrazzo. Do you notice that? As far as I'm concerned, frankly, looking at the building and getting stuck on the escalator, they still haven't finished the job. They still haven't finished. That was years ago. The project was so corrupt that Congress actually asked me to testify before them on the tremendous waste of money, because it turned out that they had no idea what it was, but they knew it was anywhere between $2 and $4 billion as opposed to $500 million with a guarantee. But they had no idea, and I said it cost much more than $5 billion. Unfortunately, many things in the United Nations are happening just like that, but on an even much bigger scale, much, much bigger. Very sad to see. Whether the UN can manage to play a productive role,
Yeah, and he's going to go into that as well, because even as the United States has taken a leadership position, he said basically the UN was not there for us.
I didn't think of it at the time because I was too busy working to save millions of lives. That is the saving and stopping of these wars. But later I realized that the United Nations wasn't there for us. They weren't there. I thought of it really after the fact, not during these negotiations, which were not easy. That being the case, what is the purpose of the United Nations? The UN has such tremendous potential. I've always said it. It has such tremendous, tremendous potential, but it's not even coming close to living up to that potential. For the most part, at least for now, all they seem to do is write a really strongly worded letter and then never follow that letter up. It's empty words, and empty words don't solve war. The only thing that solves war and wars is action. Now, after ending all of these wars and also earlier negotiating the Abraham Accords, which is a very big thing for which our country received no credit, never receives credit. Everyone says that I should get the Nobel Peace Prize for each one of these achievements. But for me, the real prize will be the sons and daughters who live to grow up with their mothers and fathers, because millions of people are no longer being killed in endless and unglorious wars. What I care about is not winning prizes, it's saving lives. We saved millions and millions of lives with the 7 wars. And we have others that we're working on, and you know that.
And he went on to talk also about he is the one that is stopping wars. Again, no help from the United Nations.
No president or prime minister, and for that matter, no other country has ever done anything close to that. And I did it in just 7 months. It's never happened before. There's never been anything like that. I'm very honored to have done it. It's too bad that I had to do these things instead of the United Nations doing them. And sadly, in all cases, the United Nations did not even try to help in any of them. I ended 7 wars, dealt with the leaders of each and every one of these countries, and never even received a phone call from the United Nations offering to help in finalizing the deal. All I got from the United Nations was an escalator that on the way up stopped right in the middle. If the First Lady wasn't in great shape, she would have fallen. But she's in great shape. We're both in good shape. We both stood. And then a teleprompter that didn't work. These are the 2 things I got from the United Nations: a bad escalator and a bad teleprompter.
Kind of interesting.
Thank you very much.
Yes, saying that. Thank you very much, United Nations, and saying, where were you? You know, you never got calls to help, ending wars and hostilities between groups, and so had those comments that he gave. He also brought about real sharp criticism against the United Nations as well, as it relates to their being the ones causing the migration problem across this planet as well. Listen to what he had to say.
Not only is the UN not solving the problems it should, too often, it's actually creating new problems for us to solve. The best example is the #1 political issue of our time, the crisis of uncontrolled migration. It's uncontrolled. Your countries are being ruined. The United Nations is funding an assault on Western countries and their borders. In 2024, the UN budgeted $372 million in cash assistance to support an estimated 624,000 migrants journeying into the United States. Think of that. The UN is supporting people that are illegally coming into the United States, and then we have to get them out. The UN also provided food, shelter, transportation, and debit cards to illegal aliens. Can you believe that? On the way to infiltrate our southern border. Millions of people came through that southern border. Just a year ago, millions and millions of people were pouring in, 25 million altogether over the 4 years of the incompetent Biden administration. And now we have it stopped, totally stopped. In fact, they're not even coming anymore because they know they can't get through. But what took place is totally unacceptable. The UN is supposed to stop invasions, not create them and not finance them. In the United States, we reject the idea that mass numbers of people from foreign lands can be permitted to travel halfway around the world trample our borders, violate our sovereignty, cause unmitigated crime, and deplete our social safety net.
We're going to come back a little bit later here on the matter of immigration and its impact on the U.S., but President Trump also, in his remarks, addressed matters going on within Europe.
And I'm telling you that if you don't get away from the green energy scam, your country is going to fail. And if you don't stop people that you've never seen before, that you have nothing in common with, your country is going to fail. I'm the president of the United States, but I worry about Europe. I love Europe. I love the people of Europe. And I hate to see it being devastated by energy and immigration. This double-tailed monster destroys everything in its wake, and they cannot let that happen any longer. You're doing it because you want to be nice. You want to be politically correct, and you're destroying your heritage.
Is that something you want to be nice and you want to be politically correct, but you're destroying your heritage in this matter? Let me play one other clip in which he's referencing Europe as well and hear what he had to say on yet another matter.
We have reasserted that America belongs to the American people, and I encourage all countries to take their own stand in defense of their citizens as well. You have to do that because I see it. I'm not mentioning names. I see it, and I can call every single one of them out. You're destroying your countries. They're being destroyed. Europe is in serious trouble. They've been invaded by a force of illegal aliens like nobody's ever seen before. Illegal aliens are pouring into Europe. Nobody is ever, and nobody's doing anything to change it, to get them out. It's not sustainable. And because they choose to be politically correct, they're doing just absolutely nothing about it.
He's giving a warning to Europe as to where things are going, and certainly also turn toward matters here within the United States and matters pertaining to immigration and regarding the trafficking of children and also finding lost children that happened under the Biden administration.
The previous administration also lost nearly 300,000 children. Think of that. They lost more than 300,000 children, little children, who were trafficked into the United States on the Biden watch, many of whom have been raped, exploited, and abused, and sold. Sold. Nobody talks about that. The fake news doesn't write about it. With many others, young children who are missing or dead. And we found a lot of these children, and we're sending them back, and we've been sending them back to their parents. They said, nobody knows who they are. They said, where do you come from? And they'll give us a country, and we'll find out, and we'll figure it out, and we'll bring them back to their homes. And the mother and father rush to the door, and their tears in their eyes. They can't believe that they're seeing their son or daughter, their little son or daughter again. We've done almost 30,000 of them so far. Any system that results in the mass trafficking of children is inherently evil. Yet that is exactly what the globalist migration agenda has done, and it's what it's all about. In America, those days, as you know, are over. The Trump administration is working, and we are continuing to work to track down the villains that are causing this problem, and also, as I said, to get back the 30,000 we've already returned. Now I think we're going to have another. We're going to find a lot. You're not going to find all of them. 300, more than 300,000. They're lost or they're dead. They're lost or they're dead because of the animals that did this.
Well, friends, we're going to hear just a few more excerpts from this in the following segment. Also plan to open our phone lines in the following segment here as well. But we're going to hear just a couple more comments in regard to what he had to say also about matters pertaining to the smuggling of drugs. And we don't see boats doing that into the U.S. anymore. He'll make some comments on that aspect. He'll also be talking about what he calls the fake Paris Climate Accord. And we'll get his closing remarks as well that he delivered before the United Nations General Assembly. We'll be back in just 1 minute. You're listening to Crosstalk on the VCY American Network.
For thousands of years, mankind has been fascinated with the question of what will happen in the future. Many have turned to palm readers, horoscopes, or a myriad of psychics for answers. However, one of the places people have refused to look is at the pages of Scripture. Jesus himself was asked by his disciples, "Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world?" Jesus responded in the Olivet Discourse recorded in Matthew chapters 24 and 25. Bible prophecy teacher and pastor Richard Schmidt addresses and explains these powerful prophetic chapters in his book, Tribulation to Triumph, the Olivet Discourse. VCY America is making available this book for a donation of $15 or more. For your copy of Tribulation to Triumph, call 1-800-729-9829.
This is Crosstalk on VCY America. Eventful times every day, it seems, here in the United States. President Trump speaking bluntly yesterday before the United Nations, and I think I've got 3 more clips I want to share with you. Here from the event yesterday. He was dealing with immigration issues. He blamed the United Nations for their promoting this migration all over the world and paying those even with gift cards and so forth for crossing borders illegally. But I want to, he also addressed the issue of drug smuggling, and let's hear that clip.
To protect our citizens, I've also designated multiple savage drug cartels as far as to, and you see this, and you see it happening right before your eyes. Let's put it this way, people don't like taking big loads of drugs in boats anymore. There aren't too many boats that are traveling on the seas by Venezuela. They tend not to want to travel very quickly anymore. And we've virtually stopped drugs coming into our country by sea. We call them the water drugs. They kill hundreds of thousands of people. I've also designated multiple savage drug cartels as far as foreign terrorist organizations, along with 2 bloodthirsty transnational gangs, probably the worst gangs anywhere in the world, MS-13 and Tren de Aragua. Tren de Aragua is from Venezuela, by the way. Such organizations torture, maim, mutilate, and murder with impunity. They're the enemies of all humanity. For this reason, we've recently begun using the supreme power of the United States military to destroy Venezuelan terrorists and trafficking networks led by Nicolas Maduro. To every terrorist thug smuggling poisonous drugs into the United States of America, please be warned that we will blow you out of existence. That's what we're doing. We have no choice. Can't let it happen. They're destroying. I believe we lost 300,000 people last year to drugs, 300,000. Fentanyl and other drugs. Each boat that we sink carries drugs that would kill more than 25,000 Americans. We will not let that happen.
President Trump speaking yesterday before the UN General Assembly, and let's also hear as he addressed the Paris Climate Accord. Here's what he told those attending.
The entire globalist concept of asking successful industrialized nations to inflict pain on themselves and radically disrupt their entire societies must be rejected completely and totally, and it must be immediate. That's why in America I withdrew from the fake Paris Climate Accord, where, by the way, America was paying so much more than every country. Others weren't paying. China didn't have to pay until 2030. Russia was given an old standard that was easy to meet, a 1990 standard. But for the United States, we're supposed to pay like $1 trillion. And I said, this is another scam. The fact is, the United States has been taken advantage of by the world for many, many years, but not any longer, as you probably noticed. I unleashed massive energy production and signed historic executive orders to hunt for oil, but we don't have to do much hunting because we have the most oil of any nation anywhere, oil and gas in the world. And if you add coal, we have the most of any nation in the world. Clean, I call it clean, beautiful coal. You can do things today with coal that you couldn't have done 10 years ago, 15 years. So I have a little standing order in the White House. Never use the word coal, only use the words clean, beautiful coal. Sounds much better, doesn't it? But we stand ready to provide any country with abundant, affordable energy supplies if you need them, when most of you do. We're proudly exporting energy all over the world. We're now the largest exporter.
Now the largest exporter, and talked about being energy self-sufficient here as a nation. One last clip, and this is basically how he wrapped up the session there for us, his closing. And it looks like I need to get that clip queued up here for us. Yesterday, this taking place at the United Nations, President Donald Trump speaking, and certainly had lots of matters unfold before him. The broken escalator was breaking as soon as they approached it, and then the broken teleprompter as well. We're going to get here to our last clip that we're going to share with you here today. And let's see, computer says we can go for it here momentarily. This is how President Donald Trump concluded the session yesterday before the United Nations as he spoke at the General Assembly, just kind of wrapping up his comments for the event. His speech was near an hour long.
Let us defend free speech and free expression. Let us protect religious liberty, including for the most persecuted religion on the planet today. It's called Christianity. And let us safeguard our sovereignty and cherish qualities that have made each of our nations so special, incredible, and extraordinary. In closing, I just want to repeat that immigration and the high cost of so-called green renewable energy is destroying a large part of the free world and a large part of our planet. Countries that cherish freedom are fading fast because of their policies on these two subjects. You need strong borders and traditional energy sources if you are going to be great again. Whether you have come from north or south, east or west, near or far, every leader in this beautiful hall today represents a rich culture, a noble history, and a proud heritage that makes each nation majestic and unique, unlike anything else in human history or any other place on the face of the earth. From London to Lima, from Rome to Athens, from Paris to Seoul, from Cairo to Tokyo and Amsterdam to right here in New York City, we stand on the shoulders of the leaders and legends, generals and giants, heroes and titans who won and built our beloved nations, all of our nations, with their own courage, strength, spirit, and skill. Our ancestors climbed mountains, conquered oceans, crossed deserts, and trekked over wide open plains. They charged into thunderous battles, plunged into grave dangers, and they were soldiers and farmers and workers and warriors and explorers and patriots. They built towns into cities, tribes into kingdoms, ideas into industries, and small islands into mighty empires. You're a part of all of that. They were champions for their people who never gave up and who never, ever gave in. Their values defined our national identities. Their visions forged our magnificent destiny. Everybody in this room is a part of it in your own way. Each of us inherits the deeds and the myths, the triumphs, the legacies of our own heroes and founders who so bravely showed us the way. Our ancestors gave everything for homelands that they defended with pride, with sweat, with blood, with life, and with death. Now the righteous task of protecting the nations that they built belongs to each and every one of us. So together let us uphold our sacred duty to our people and to our citizens. Let us protect their borders, ensure their safety, preserve their cultures, treasure, and traditions, and fight for their precious dreams and their cherished freedoms. And in friendship and really a beautiful vision, let us all work together to build a bright, beautiful planet, a planet that we all share, a planet of peace and a world that is richer, better, and more beautiful than ever before. That can happen. It will happen It will happen, and I hope it can happen and start right now, right at this moment. We'll turn it around. We're going to make our countries better, safer, more beautiful. We're going to take care of our people. Thank you very much. It's been an honor. God bless the nations of the world. Thank you very much. Bye.
President Donald Trump speaking yesterday before the United Nations General Assembly and really spoke very bluntly in many different regards. Reminded them, the United Nations, that they were not there for us. He attacked them as being an irrelevant body that's failed in its mission to ensure global security and stability. He said all they seem to do is write a really strongly worded letter and then never follow that letter up. It's empty words, and empty words don't solve war, he said. Later, he said, I realized that the United Nations wasn't there for us. I thought of it really after the fact. That being the case, what is the purpose of the United Nations, he asked. He acknowledged the challenge that he has faced in trying to end Russia's war in Ukraine, secure a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas in the Gaza. He blamed other countries for setting back his efforts on both fronts. The president said the U.S. was prepared to impose a very strong round of powerful tariffs on Russia, but said it would be ineffective unless Europe stopped importing oil from Moscow. He said Europe has to step it up. They have to cease all energy purchases from Russia. Otherwise, we're all wasting a lot of time. The president reserved some of his most aggressive remarks in rejecting global efforts to rein in fossil fuel use and promote renewable clean energy. He called climate change the greatest con job ever perpetrated on the world and repeated his contempt for wind power as pathetic and so bad. He said you're supposed to make money with energy, not lose money. He said all green is all bankrupt. That's what it represents. And it's not politically correct. I'll be very badly criticized for saying it, but I'm here to tell the truth, he said yesterday in his comments. Our phone number to Crosstalk, if you'd like to react here to the president's address yesterday, the United Nations, the matters that are unfolding here across the nation, our number, 1-800-733-9829, 1-800-733-9829, our number today for Crosstalk. And in that closing section there, you heard President Trump say, let us protect religious liberty, including for the most persecuted religion on the planet today. He said it's called Christianity. And friends, are we not seeing the targeting of Christians and churches here across this land? We have seen that over and over again. And certainly there are Christians all across this planet that are being persecuted on account of their faith, carrying a Bible, not adopting to Islam, not accepting Islam as their religion, refusing to say the Shahada. And friends, it's happening. So I'd like to get your reaction today on Crosstalk. Again, our number 800-733-9829. And he told delegates the dire scientific predictions of global warming were bad for many reasons. Newsmax.com says dismissing the work of climate researchers as politically motivated and economically harmful. He claimed that many advocates for climate action are, quote, stupid, and that global efforts to reduce carbon emissions have damaged economies, particularly in Europe. The president framed his remarks within a broader argument that for what he's described as American energy dominance, praising the U.S. oil, gas, coal, and nuclear resources, warning that nations relying heavily on renewable energy are heading toward disaster. And he pointed out the EU in that regard. Well, there was a reaction to his speech yesterday. Environmental organizations condemned the remarks as an attack on the scientific consensus that global warming poses severe risk to human health, security, and economies. Several world leaders at the UN expressed concern that his rhetoric could weaken international cooperation at a critical moment. The Washington Post reported that. So let's take a quick break. We'll come right back and take your comments here on Crosstalk of 1-800-733-9829. This is Crosstalk coming your way from the VCY American Network.
For the Worldview Report, I'm Brandon House. Our website's worldviewtube.com. I'm studying through the book of Revelation right now on Sunday nights. And I've been in Revelation chapter 21. The New Jerusalem coming down out of heaven. Isn't that interesting? A New Jerusalem coming down out of heaven from God. And indeed, what we see here is really the fulfillment of what this spiritual battle has been all about, returning us to a Garden of Eden relationship with God himself. We know that Adam and Eve walked in the coolness of the garden with God, but then sin entered into the world, original sin, the fall. And thankfully, God incarnate came to earth to pay that price for those of us who place our faith and trust in him. And Revelation chapter 21 says that when this world is done and over and it has fled away, there'll be a new heaven and a new earth, and then will come down a new Jerusalem from heaven from God. And guess what he's going to do? Make his tabernacle with us, restoring us to that glorious relationship.
This is Crosstalk on VCY America. Lines are packed, but we'll get to your calls here. And as somebody hangs up, that's your opportunity to call. 800-733-9829. We begin in Racine, Wisconsin. Lat, you're on the air.
Yeah, hi, Jim. I'm trying to figure out why Trump is even dealing with the UN. I saw it in 2016 when he held the first 4-year term as the president. I thought he cut all ties with the UN. I'm not sure if he did, but I thought he did, and I believe we shouldn't even be dealing with the UN because the UN is very corrupt and evil, and I believe a lot of the UN is demonic. And I'll take my question off the air. Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, your answer off the air. Okay. Well, certainly, and Donald Trump has engaged these global entities before. If you remember, just right after his inauguration, he spoke to the World Economic Forum, and basically said you're heading in the wrong pathway. I mean, he really is chastising the global body. What is your purpose for existence? What's going on here? You're heading down the wrong path. You're causing all this disruption. You're supposed to be promoting peace in this world, and you're promoting disruption and creating disruption around the world. So certainly he has pulled back huge amounts of funding to things like the World Health Organization, United Nations, and World Economic Forum in that regard. So he is doing that, but at the same time, he will, and I believe he did address the UN during his first term as well, but he tells it like it is. Mark in Newark, Ohio, you're on the air.
Yes, I was going to say, last caller, why is Trump not implementing his saying what he said his first term is taking the UN out of the United States and getting it out of this country? Mm-hmm. And the second one is you was talking about the weather and all that. Don't they understand that we got 43 active volcanoes is now spewing all that sulfide into the air, and it's creating a dense cloud, and it's creating our weather change. So I don't know how they could say the human race is doing it. It's just contradicting themselves over there in the UN.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for the call. So, yeah, in regard to the United Nations, the president can't just will the UN out of the United States. There's a legislative body, the House and the Senate. And matter of fact, there is legislation before them right now to totally rid ourselves from the United Nations. And so your efforts to reach out, and yes, the president touts many, many different policies, but your efforts to reach out to your member of Congress, the House of Representatives, your 2 senators for your state, critically important to share your views as citizens. And you've got a contact phone number, 202-225-3121 to the House switchboard, and to the Senate switchboard, 202-224-3121. And go to house.gov or senate.gov for direct phone numbers for your legislators. But that legislation's not going too far in the Senate and the House at this time. So reaching out to your members of Congress would really be important on that aspect. Chris is calling in from Hayward. You're on the air, Chris.
Hey, Jim. Thanks for taking my call. Good show. Yeah, I just wanted to mention what Donald Trump was saying there about Europe and all these immigrants coming in and how that destroys the culture. I totally agree with that. You know, the United States and Europe and other Western countries should never take in people that are non-compatible with Western Christian traditional values, because it doesn't work. And, you know, and I'm not against the people of other cultures and stuff. I mean, God loves everybody, but you can't take people in to Western countries if they're not going to assimilate and you know, share those values. It just doesn't make sense. You know, it's common sense. You know, they shouldn't be bringing in people that are not going to assimilate, and I just totally agree with the president on that.
Yeah,
that was my comment.
Thank you, Chris. And what we have, you've got imams who are shouting that out. Linda Sarsour, who has spoken for Muslim organizations as well too, has just said we are not here to assimilate. And certainly, there's another matter that thank you for the call. There's another matter that is before them, and it is domination. Look at what just happened was it Dearborn, Michigan? We played the clip last Friday in the program about a man who was objecting to naming streets, with Islamic names and giving credence to some of those who had perpetrated or supporting some pretty bad actions, and yet the mayor of Dearborn told him that this city would be better off without you, and speaking to the Christian there. So that's the very thing that we have had warned to us by people like Usama Daktak, Sharam Hadian, and others. Deborah is calling from Phoenix, Arizona. Deborah, you're on the air.
Thank you so much. I listened today, and the President Trump, I do stand behind whatever he says. It's left, right. I feel like we're playing ping pong. We know it's spiritual warfare. I'm 72, almost blind, but I still rise up. We have to stand up for the principles and be behind him. I just listen to PBS. You guys, I don't watch secular television. I know high people in high places, but if we don't, as Americans, stand up, I have 4 grandchildren. One that's at the University of Wisconsin, most liberal university in the world, and I'm thinking I want a world for them. I want to leave them things, not have everything taken, the carbon monoxide. Oh, he's right. It's totally right. I feel like I'm a rightist, but it doesn't matter. That's what we have to search our hearts. Discrimination. Stand up. Believe. We are Americans.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you for your call here today from Phoenix, Arizona. I don't have time for any further phone calls here on the program today, but certainly those are the matters that are unfolded before us. We do need to have voice, and I'm so glad for those 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence. I'm so glad for the framers of the United States Constitution, the states that ratified it, and knowing that for many cases there was a price to be paid for standing up for liberty and standing up for freedom across our land. And friends, we do need to do that, knowing that Christian values and our Christian witness is even under attack. There are those who want to stop the Christian message from going forward. They don't like the name of Jesus. They want to eradicate his name from across this planet and specifically this country. And so we need to topple that First Amendment that gives the free exercise of religion. That's the goal of many. So take time today, pray for our nation, pray for our president, pray for our leaders in the House and Senate, pray for our court system as well. It's critically important that we do. And as believers in Christ, to be salt and to be light, to share the gospel to a world that is so greatly in need. Thank you for joining us today. Don't forget, Lord willing, tomorrow we'll be dealing with this issue of forgiveness. How could Charlie Kirk's wife say that she has forgiven the man who shot her husband? More on that tomorrow. Thanks for joining us, and may you have a blessed day in the Lord. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to Crosstalk via satellite and the internet from VCY America. Views expressed may or may not be those of this station. For a CD of today's program, send a donation of $6 or more to VCY Take Ministry, 3434 West Kilbourne Avenue, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53208, or download by RSS or podcast from crosstalkamerica.com. And join us again for Crosstalk.